Hey y'all, so sorry I'm not in class today. I did want to walk you through some things that you should be doing today. So at this point, the sub should have passed out to you your new syllabus. It is blue. So in this unit, we're going to be learning about Woodrow Wilson. Okay, at this point, I also want you to pull out your computers, go to Google Classroom and find notes number 1. I want to give you a quick rundown of Woodrow Wilson's domestic policies. I'll give you just a second to pull up your notes number 1 on Google Classroom. So we want to look today at Woodrow Wilson and we want to mainly see his domestic policies and we want to really take a look at how is he a progressive president. So in this set of notes, we're going to start with the election of 1912. So in the election of 1912, you just did your bell ringer on this election. We have a couple of big candidates. So from the Republican Party, we have William Howard Taft. Okay, he is the current sitting president. He is running for re-election. The Democratic candidate is Woodrow Wilson. And then remember, Teddy Roosevelt has gotten so mad at his friend William Howard Taft that he decides in 1912 to start a new party, the Bull Moose Party or the Progressive Party. Okay, so three big candidates. Hey, in your notes, there's a question. What do these three presidents have in common? They are all three progressive. So they are all working to move the country forward, fix all of those problems from the Gilded Age. Now, we know in 1912, Woodrow Wilson is going to win because Teddy Roosevelt starting a new party will divide the Republican vote. It splits the party, causing the Democrats to win. We also know this was controversial that Teddy Roosevelt was running for a third term. While he was out campaigning, he is actually going to be shot on the campaign trail. He was on stage about to deliver a speech when he is shot. After being shot, he is going to continue to talk for 90 minutes before being rushed to the hospital. So you can see here John Schrank, the man who shot Teddy Roosevelt, because he did not believe he should be running for a third term. Teddy Roosevelt, we know he wore glasses. Y'all, in his pocket, he had his glasses case. Okay, you can see the bullet went all the way through the glasses case. That is going to slow the bullet down. He was scheduled to give a 50-page speech that night at the rally. He had the speech folded multiple times in his jacket pocket. You can see the bullet went through the 50-page speech, and it did go into Teddy Roosevelt's chest. It is going to puncture his lung. You can see here in the x-ray. Teddy Roosevelt very dramatically is going to open up his jacket during the speech. The audience can see the blood pouring out onto his white shirt, and he said, "It takes more than a bullet to stop a bull moose." Okay, so very Teddy Roosevelt story there as he is shot on the campaign trail. Okay, so Woodrow Wilson wins the election of 1912. He is going to call his policies New Freedom. There are three big areas that he wants to reform as part of his domestic policy. Number one, he wants to change the tariff rate. Number two, he wants to fix banking and our monetary policies. And he also wants to fix businesses and labor. So in your notes, you should see this bubble, okay, the three areas of reform that Wilson is going to work towards: tariff, banking and money, business and labor. And so what I want to do here for the rest of the notes, I want to run through quickly those three major areas of reform, starting with the tariff. So we have talked extensively about a tariff. Remember, that is a tax on imported goods. Okay, a tax on imported goods. If Wilson is progressive and he cares about people, then he said, I am going to lower the tariff rate. In 1913, he helped to pass a new tariff. It is called the Underwood tariff. It is going to replace the Payne-Aldrich tariff. The Payne-Aldrich tariff put a 37% tariff on imported goods. The Underwood tariff will lower it to 27%. It's also going to place more items on the non-taxed list, and it's going to allow for the establishment of a federal income tax. Okay, in your notes here, we have some question marks. Which amendment called for a graduated income tax? It is the 16th Amendment. Now, with the Underwood tariff, the American people are excited that the tariff rate is lowered. Businesses, they're going to be very hesitant that the tariff rate is lowered because now they're going to have to lower their prices so they can compete with their foreign competitors. Okay, y'all, the lowering the tariff, that makes Wilson a progressive president. Second area he wants to reform, banking. He is going to help to start the Federal Reserve. Okay, y'all, if you pull out a piece of money from your pocket right now and take a look at it, it says this is a Federal Reserve note. Okay, so still today in 2025, we have the Federal Reserve overseeing banking and monetary policies. It's going to establish a three-tiered banking system. So think about it like this three-tiered triangle on your screen. Okay, at the top, we have the Federal Reserve Board. So the Fed, they are appointed by the president. Then we have 12 Federal Reserve banks. So they basically took a map of the United States, they divided the country into 12 regions. In each region, they put a Federal Reserve Bank. It is like a bank for banks. And then we have at the bottom all of the member banks, so the private banks that you and I go to. Now, some responsibilities of the Federal Reserve. Number one, they set reserve limits, okay? A minimum that the bank has to have on them at all times. You know, it would be frustrating if I went to my bank and I tried to make a withdrawal and they said, sorry, we don't have that money right now. We've loaned it all out. Okay, so the Federal Reserve sets a reserve limit, a minimum amount of paper cash that the bank has to keep on them at all times. The Federal Reserve also provides loans to private banks, especially when we're in an economic crisis like the Great Depression or in 2008 with the recession. They also protect consumer credit rights and they maintain the stability of the currency. So y'all, basically they're deciding the interest rates, they're deciding how much money to put in circulation. If they put too much money into circulation, we know that's going to cause inflation. Okay, a very important job. Let's pause here and watch a quick video about the Federal Reserve.
What is the Fed?
So what is the Fed?
What is the Fed?
What is the Fed? The Federal Reserve, often referred to as the Fed, is the central bank of the United States.
Congress created the Fed in 1913 to help promote a safe and sound monetary and financial system for our nation. The Fed includes the Board of Governors in Washington, D.C., which has 7 members, including the chairman and vice chairman. All of the members of the board are appointed by the President of the United States and confirmed by the United States Senate. The Fed also includes 12 regional Federal Reserve banks located in cities throughout the country.
The reserve banks serve as the central bank's operating arms and also gather economic information from all over the country
to help the Fed both monitor the economy and get the broad input necessary
To develop and implement effective U.S. monetary policy.
Today, the Fed performs a number of important functions, all with the ultimate goal of promoting a healthy U.S. economy.
One of the Fed's most recognizable functions is conducting U.S. monetary policy, which involves influencing interest rates and the availability of money and credit in our economy.
Congress has tasked the Fed with implementing monetary policies that promote maximum employment and stable prices. High levels of employment provide people with more economic opportunities, and stable prices promote growth.
by making it easier for households and businesses to plan for the future.
Monetary policy decisions at the Fed are made by the Federal Open Market Committee,
which includes all 7 members of the Board of Governors and presidents from the reserve banks.
This committee meets regularly to assess the conditions and outlook for the economy. In addition to conducting monetary policy, the Federal Reserve also helps to supervise and regulate the nation's banks and works to promote a stable financial system for consumers, communities, and businesses.
The Fed also works with communities, nonprofit organizations, and others across the nation to address housing problems, promote equal access to credit, and advance economic and community development.
The Fed also promotes stability in the financial system because instability in the financial system poses a severe threat to the broader economy and to communities across the nation.
The Fed also acts as a bank to other banks by clearing checks, making electronic payments, and providing the currency that Americans need to use every day.
Our nation's economy and financial system face constant challenges.
The Fed is working every day to address those challenges and is committed to helping foster good economic conditions and outcomes. Employment opportunities, stable prices, and financial stability that benefit all Americans.
And we are also the Fed.
To learn more about the Federal Reserve, you'll find a wide range of resources on the Board of Governors website at federalreserve.gov.
All right, so hopefully you were paying attention there. As soon as we're done with notes, you are going to actually do assignment number 1, which is about the Federal Reserve. Okay, a couple of other points. So an interesting, actually a terrifying figure here. We can see the value of a dollar Federal Reserve note. So in 1913, a dollar was worth $1. Okay, you can see the trend through the years that the dollar is losing value. Okay, and what do we call this trend? When the dollar loses value and prices have to go up, that is called inflation. Okay, so what does inflation mean for prices? They will go up. All right, our third area of reform under Woodrow Wilson has to do with businesses and labor. So he's going to pass a law called the Clayton Antitrust Act. Y'all remember, another word for a trust is a monopoly. Okay, we've already seen the passage of the Sherman Antitrust Act, but y'all remember in the Gilded Age, they weren't really enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act, and it was very vague. There were lots of loopholes in it. So Wilson comes back with a new antitrust law, the Clayton Antitrust Act. It is going to be very specific. It says large companies cannot sell goods below cost to drive your competitors out of business. You're going to end up with a monopoly if you do this. You cannot buy competing companies' stock trying to create a monopoly. Okay, so it is very specific. The Clayton Antitrust Act, no monopolies. Now, in order to enforce the Clayton Antitrust Act, we're going to see the creation of the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. Okay, their whole job is to enforce the Clayton Antitrust Act. We're also going to see the passage of the Keating-Owen Act. Okay, remember a big thing we've been talking about the last few weeks, how do we end child labor? Okay, this law is going to work to do just that, in child labor. In 1916, we're also going to see the passage of a law called the Adamson Act. So Wilson is going to try to take a page out of Teddy Roosevelt's playbook. He is going to try to use arbitration to end a railroad strike. His efforts are going to fail, and so he is going to follow that up with the passage of the Adamson Act. It said railroad workers can only be asked to work 8 hours a day. It is a federal law. Okay, again, y'all can see how this makes Wilson progressive. Okay, he's ending child labor. He's cracking down on monopolies. He is looking out for working conditions. And then finally, we are going to see the passage of some new amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Y'all, we've been talking about these amendments the last few weeks, but chronologically, this is when they're added to the Constitution. Okay, the 17th Amendment says that we get to elect our senators so that there is more accountability, more representation in the government. We've also been building up to the passage of the 18th Amendment calling for the prohibition of alcohol. Y'all, in 1919, that is added to the Constitution. Okay, alcohol is now illegal in the United States. You can see the picture here. They are pouring out the alcohol. And then we have the passage of the 19th Amendment. So women have been asking for suffrage. Okay, remember, suffrage is the right to vote. We call these women suffragettes. They are led by people like Alice Paul and Carrie Chapman Catt of the National American Woman Suffrage Association. In 1916, Alice Paul is going to help to found the National Woman's Party. Woodrow Wilson is even going to come out in support of women's suffrage in 1918. Okay, finally, after this long fight, the 19th Amendment is ratified to the Constitution in 1919, giving women suffrage. All right, so last thing I want you to do in your notes, take a look at this flyer and tell me 12 reasons why women should have the right to vote. Which reason is the most valid argument in your opinion and why? All right, when you're done, we want to submit notes number 1 to Google Classroom. At this point, the sub is going to pass out to you a pink one-page document on the Federal Reserve. You're going to use this pink paper to answer your questions for assignment number 1. Okay, the sub will give you about 20 minutes to complete assignment number 1. Make sure you get it done. After that, you will also be given an exit pass just to make sure you understand the big concepts behind Woodrow Wilson and his domestic policies called New Freedom. Okay, I will see y'all on Thursday. Make sure you get all your work done.